Thank you for having me here today. My time in the state legislature in Ohio and as state treasurer, I've come across a lot of people in politics. These folks have a variety of goals. Some of the people I meet want to be, by the time they're 50, want to be governor. By the time they're 60, want to be a U.S. senator. I try to keep my goals relatively simple. By the time I'm 40, I just hope to be shaving. Had people coming up to me, how old are you? So a little bit about me. I'm the 48th treasurer of the state of Ohio, and I appreciate Sean and Emmett and others inviting me here today, and it's my honor to speak here. My wife, Alana, and I live in the Cleveland area. We have two munchkins in diapers, Rosie, who will be 2 years old in April, and Judah, who's about 4 months old now. And a lot of my involvement in this issue, a lot of my presence here today is because I want them to grow up in a certain Ohio and a certain America, one that embodies and embraces the ideals of our forefathers and the men and women who fought over many generations and centuries to make America what it is today. And I think this issue of Common Core, those who are advocating for Common Core, are pushing away from really the empowerment of the individual, the power of the mom and dad. And oftentimes, I think folks on the other side of this issue are thinking about what's best for adults as opposed to what's best for kids. And I think if we really take a step back and ask the question, what's best for kids, it's very easy to understand what the proper position is on this issue. Let me tell you a little bit about my family, because it's really my family history that helped inspire me to get involved with this issue as well. About 2 weeks ago, there were many memorials in Europe and throughout the United States commemorating the 75th anniversary of Auschwitz. About 75 years ago, in a town called Kielce, Poland, the Nazis walked into the home of my grandfather Joe, his 5 brothers and sisters, pulled him out of there, put him into the Kielce ghetto, and shortly after that, they were put on trains, taken to the camps. My grandfather was young and strong. He was probably around a teenager, and he went one way, and his parents and siblings went the other way, and they perished there in the camps. And by a level of strength that I'll never know, in an act of God, he survived Auschwitz and multiple other camps. At the same time, my grandmother Fernanda, who was from Italy, was hidden there. In World War II, there were about 50,000 Jews in Italy. And the Catholic Church in the Torino area, where my grandmother is from, said to their parishioners, "You're going to save these kids." And these very courageous Catholics in Torino, Italy, risked their lives. This network of Catholic families there risked their lives to save my grandmother Fernanda, my Aunt Marietta, my Aunt Renata, and my Uncle Mario. At that same time, my grandfather Harold from Cleveland, Ohio, was serving in the U.S. Army Air Corps wearing the uniform of our military. And so fast forward to my growing up around our Sunday evening dinner table, around our Thanksgiving tables, around family functions, I would hear stories from that time in American history and world history from my grandfather Joe, who wore the uniform, from my grandfather Harold, who wore the uniform, my grandfather Joe, who survived the camps, and my grandmother Fernanda, who was saved by these very courageous Catholic families. And even though they came from 3 completely different perspectives, they ultimately came to the same conclusion, that they were very proud to be Americans, and they very much appreciated and cherished the freedom we had here. And it was that motivation to be involved with public service, to ultimately join the Marine Corps and try to protect that freedom, that was part of my inspiration to be involved with this issue. The second reason I got involved is because Sean invited me to this conference in Notre Dame. And I didn't know a lot about the issue. And he said, "I want you to come to Notre Dame and learn." And the program that was put on there by Emmett, Professor Bradley, by people who were subject matter experts in education, who showed slide after slide after slide, similar to what Emmett just showed you, and really educated us as policy leaders, moms, people throughout the room. It was really that education from subject matter experts that motivated me to go home and do something about it. And so when I got home and looked around, I didn't see any other public officials in the state of Ohio that were vocally opposing this. We had a governor who was actually supporting Common Core, and there just wasn't really any energy behind the opposition. And so I got a phone call from a friend of mine in the Cincinnati area, and she said, "I want you to come over to my house." This is my friend Taya, who's a homeschool mom down in Cincinnati. And she said, "I want you to meet my friend Heidi." And Heidi is one of those moms who you just saw on that screen. And as so many movements have started in American history, it started with two moms around a kitchen table. And I sat there and we talked about what I learned in Notre Dame. And we sat there and they educated me. Heidi came with a big binder and we went page after page after page. I think we were there probably till after 10 o'clock at night. And they said, "Listen, the public policy on this is clear. We just need leaders to help us. We need leaders to give us cover. We need leaders to open up the seams so we can make this argument in the halls of the legislature, and we can make this argument in the court of public opinion." And so I was proud to partner with them and really take their lead in doing this. And so in 2013, near the end of the year, I wrote a letter that Sean referenced. I'm going to just read a little excerpt from it that embodies how I believe, what I believe on this issue, and how motivated I am to stand shoulder to shoulder with you. There are many reasons why Ohio parents, teachers, and ultimately lawmakers are concerned about the adoption of Common Core. While the apparent rationale for states to adopt the Common Core was to raise the bar for students, many respected education experts argue that the academic content standards in math and language arts are less than rigorous, and the new teaching methods are subpar. Common Core was hurriedly crafted, implemented, and tied to a promise of grants through the Race to the Top program. But today, budgets at the state and local school district levels are faced with a multitude of expenses that exceed any federal dollars received. Moreover, the creation of a statewide longitudinal data system designed to track students from cradle to career is deeply disturbing and can compromise student privacy as well. The movement to implement Common Core appears to be nothing more than a backdoor attempt at a one-size-fits-all national education policy. If allowed to stand, state and local elected officials, along with parents and teachers, will essentially cede local control of curriculum and testing to unaccountable bureaucrats in Washington. I strongly oppose such a loss of local control to the federal government or any other consortium outside of Ohio. For the reasons stated above, I am proud to offer my support of the repeal of Common Core in the state of Ohio. So I sent this letter out, and it started a firestorm. I started getting beat up pretty bad in the media, as you might imagine. They were calling my friends, our group of moms, crazy. Some of the people who were against the issue, or against our position on the issue, went through my supporter list and had all these supporters of mine call me and say, "We're not going to support you anymore in your campaigns." And you know what? I don't make decisions based on political support from campaigns. And I told these media folks, you watch what happens here. You watch the momentum. And you watch what happens when a group of moms in the state of Ohio and throughout the country get behind an issue and educate people. And so we went from, in the state of Ohio, being called crazy and ostracized and beat up in every newspaper you can see, to a place where leaders in the State House, folks who were in leadership positions, I think it was the majority leader in our State House, was actually advocating for the repeal of Common Core. And as Sean mentioned, there was a tipping point in Cincinnati, Ohio, when there was a long-serving state representative running for re-election who didn't want to take a position on Common Core. And the person who ran against him was the renegade, was the rebel, was the insurgent. Didn't have the money, didn't have the resources, but he had a group of moms, and he had this issue. And he went door to door to door in Cincinnati, Ohio, talking to people about Common Core, talking about empowering parents, talking about empowering students, talking about local control, talking about why, if Obamacare has turned out how it is in Washington, do we really want Washington bureaucrats making decisions for local education of our students? And this guy who had no chance in this state legislative election went from out of nowhere with everything stacked against him and was elected to the State House of Representatives on one issue, Common Core. And so now we're in the new General Assembly in the state of Ohio. We ran out of time last General Assembly. We got the bill passed out of committee, but now we're starting all over again. And we have this newfound energy, we have this momentum, we have this group of legislators who are behind it. Folks who in the last General Assembly didn't want to open their mouth, now they have the courage because they see this group of moms behind them. And what I've tried to do from my small perch as a treasurer of the state of Ohio is give them some political cover, give them some courage, and try to lead on the issue and show them that there's actually a lot of people behind them marching in this parade. It's not a small group. Now, oftentimes when you're involved with insurgent-type issues like this, and folks who embrace corporate welfare, and folks who embrace big government, and folks who have a lot of money are on the other side, it's difficult. But I would argue that we have the most powerful thing. We have Heidi, we have Taya, we have all these moms you saw on that screen. And so if I may, just for one moment, ask Heidi and maybe the brigade of moms in this room to stand, because I think we all owe them a round of applause. This issue boils down to a very simple concept at the end of the day. When the government is big, the people are small. But when the government is small, the people are big. And as Sean used the word empower over and over again in his remarks, I thought about that. And this is really what it's about. It's about empowering people to be big. It's about empowering citizens. It's about embracing the principles of the Constitution and empowering citizens to be big and control the destiny for their kids and for their communities. And in that fight, I look forward to continue to march forward with you, shoulder to shoulder. Thank you very much.